Imagine waking up one morning to find that the person you trusted the most, the one you confided in, laughed with, and considered your closest ally, has betrayed you in ways you never thought possible. Now picture this betrayal cutting deeper than anything you've ever felt, leaving you questioning everything you thought you knew about friendship. This isn't a story you can easily forget. This is the story of a girl named Emma, who thought she knew her best friend, but the truth was far darker than she ever imagined. Emma and Sarah had been inseparable since they were kids. They shared everything: secrets, dreams, fears, and even a few silly inside jokes that only they understood. To Emma, Sarah was more than a best friend. She was family. In Emma's mind, they were bound together by years of shared memories. So when Sarah asked for help one day, Emma didn't hesitate. She trusted her completely. But trust, as Emma was about to learn, can be a dangerous thing. It all started on an ordinary Wednesday morning. Emma had been feeling a little off lately, but she couldn't quite place it. Maybe it was the weight of her busy life catching up with her. Or perhaps it was just one of those moments when everything seemed a bit out of sync. But then, Sarah called. She sounded frantic, desperate even. There had been an accident, Sarah said. Something terrible had happened, and she needed Emma's help right away. Without thinking twice, Emma dropped everything and rushed over. But when she arrived at Sarah's apartment, the scene that greeted her wasn't what she expected. Sarah wasn't the hysterical wreck she had anticipated, pacing back and forth, or grieving over a life-altering event. No, Sarah was calm, eerily calm. It was almost as if nothing was wrong at all. Emma felt a knot form in her stomach, but she pushed it away, chalking it up to her overactive imagination. After all, she knew Sarah, right? This was her best friend. She trusted her. She had to. As the hours passed, the details of Sarah's story seemed to unravel. Like a puzzle with pieces that didn't quite fit. Each new piece of information Sarah gave Emma raised more questions than answers. Something didn't feel right, but Emma couldn't put her finger on it. She told herself that maybe she was overthinking things, that she was just tired and stressed, out from work. But deep down, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Sarah was hiding something from her, something big. And then came the moment that would change everything. Emma stumbled upon a piece of evidence, something small, almost insignificant at first glance, but enough to make her stop in her tracks. It was a phone call Sarah had made the night before, long after Emma had gone to bed. The number wasn't familiar, and Sarah hadn't mentioned anything about it. Emma's curiosity got the best of her, and she decided to dig deeper. What she discovered shocked her to her core. The truth about Sarah wasn't just surprising, it was terrifying. Emma realized she had been living in a lie, one carefully crafted by the one person she had trusted the most. But as the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, Emma knew she was only scratching the surface. She hadn't yet uncovered the full extent of Sarah's deception. What was Sarah hiding? What had she done that made Emma feel like she no longer recognized the person standing in front of her? And what was Emma going to do with this newfound knowledge? The more Emma uncovered, the more dangerous the situation seemed. Sarah wasn't just any best friend. There were dark secrets, hidden motives, and a web of lies that threatened to destroy everything Emma thought she knew about their friendship. Sarah had manipulated her for months, pulling the strings of their relationship in ways Emma never could have imagined. The trust that Emma had placed in her was shattered, irreparably so. But now, Emma had a choice to make. Would she confront Sarah and risk losing everything? Or would she let this dangerous game continue, unknowingly walking straight into the trap her best friend had set for her? As the tension grew, Emma found herself torn between her loyalty to someone she once considered family and the terrifying realization that Sarah's true nature was something far more sinister than she could have ever guessed. The deeper Emma dug, the more she realized that her own life might be in danger, and the only person who could save her might just be the one she could no longer trust. What happens next? Is Sarah truly the villain in this story? Or has Emma misjudged everything? The truth is out there, but getting to it may cost Emma more than she's willing to pay. And even if she does uncover it, will it be too late to stop the catastrophe Sarah has set in motion? Keep watching, because this story is far from over, and the next twist will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something had been wrong with Sarah for weeks. It wasn't just the phone call, or the strange calmness when she was supposedly dealing with a crisis. It was the little things that had started to pile up. Sarah had always been the one to check in on her, the one who would send a random text to see how she was doing, even when things were going well. But lately, she'd been distant, almost like she was pulling away without ever saying it out loud. And when Emma thought back to the times Sarah had seemed unusually secretive, she realized there had been a pattern. It wasn't just one isolated incident. It was a shift in Sarah's behavior that Emma had overlooked, too wrapped up in the comfort of their friendship to notice. When Emma found the phone number on Sarah's phone that night, it wasn't just a piece of a puzzle. It was the key to unlocking a door she never thought she'd open. The number was unfamiliar, and when Emma searched for it online, nothing came up. There were no social media profiles, no websites, nothing. It was as if the number existed in a vacuum. The more she tried to dig, the more frustrated she became. Sarah had to know what Emma was doing. She'd always been the type to have an answer for everything, to always seem a step ahead. But now, it felt like Sarah was intentionally slipping away, just out of reach. The next few days felt like a fog, with Emma's mind running in circles. She couldn't bring herself to confront Sarah. Not yet. There was a part of her that still wanted to believe in the friendship they had, that maybe this was all a misunderstanding. Maybe Sarah had been under stress, and the phone call was just something that didn't mean anything. But deep down, Emma knew she couldn't ignore the truth forever. Every moment spent pretending nothing was wrong was another moment Sarah had. To cover her tracks, Emma decided to do something she never thought she would. She started following Sarah. At first, it was just simple things. She'd follow her to the coffee shop they used to frequent, hoping to catch a glimpse of something that might explain the growing distance between them. But soon, following Sarah became a habit, and not a healthy one. Emma would watch from a distance as Sarah would meet with people Emma didn't recognize. People who looked like they were more than just casual acquaintances. There were conversations Emma couldn't hear, exchanges that seemed loaded with meaning, and Sarah's behavior grew more erratic. One evening, Emma saw Sarah meet with someone in a dark alley. They exchanged what appeared to be an envelope that looked out of place for someone like Sarah, someone Emma had always known as an open book. Emma couldn't make sense of it, but the unease in her gut only grew stronger. It was then that Emma realized that the Sarah she had known might have never existed at all. The days bled into each other, and Emma became more obsessed. She started retracing her memories, pulling apart everything she thought she knew. How many times had Sarah made excuses for things she couldn't explain? How many times had Emma trusted her without questioning her motives? Each memory felt like a knife twisting in her chest, but nothing could prepare her for what she was about to uncover. One night, when Emma couldn't take the silence anymore, she finally confronted Sarah. They were sitting in the same park they had visited countless times before. The one where they talk about everything and nothing. The air was crisp, and the park was nearly empty. Save for a few late-night joggers, Emma could see Sarah's face, calm as ever, but there was a tension in her eyes, something just beneath the surface. It was like Sarah was waiting for this moment, prepared for it in a way that made Emma's heart race. "Sarah, I need to know what's going on. What is all this?" Emma asked, her voice steady, despite the chaos inside her. For the first time, Sarah didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked at Emma, really looked at her, as if trying to gauge just how much Emma had figured out. It was then that Emma realized how little she actually knew about Sarah's life. There were things about Sarah, about her past, that Emma had never known. Things that Sarah had never shared, even though they had been best friends for years. And as Sarah hesitated, Emma's stomach dropped. "I never wanted you to find out. This way," Sarah finally said, her voice almost a whisper. "But there's something you need to understand, Emma. I didn't just need help that night. I needed you to trust me, without question." Emma felt a chill run through her veins. "Trust you with what?" "Trust me with everything. Because nothing is what it seems. Not you, not me, not any of this." Sarah's words were cryptic, and Emma's confusion grew. "I've been trying to protect you from a truth that could ruin everything." Before Emma could say anything else, Sarah's phone rang. Sarah's eyes flickered to the screen, and then she quickly silenced it. But the damage was done. The call, whoever it was from, had shaken Sarah. Her hands were trembling, her calm demeanor starting to crack. "I have to go," Sarah said, standing up abruptly. Emma reached out to stop her, but Sarah pulled away, a look of urgency in her eyes. "You don't understand yet, but you will. Just trust me, Emma. Please, just trust me one more time." Sarah turned and walked away before Emma could respond, leaving her standing there, her mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. What was Sarah hiding? What was so dangerous that she couldn't share it? The chill in Emma's spine deepened as the weight of Sarah's words hit her. There was more to this than just betrayal. It was a game, and Emma had been unknowingly playing it all along. As Emma stood there, the phone rang again, this time from an unknown number. It was Sarah, but before Emma could answer, the call ended, abruptly. That's when she saw something that would push her over the edge. A figure watching her from a distance, hidden in the shadows. A shadow that wasn't there a second ago. Her heart skipped a beat. The real game was just beginning. Emma's pulse quickened as she turned her head, trying to make sense of what she'd just seen. There, standing in the shadows, was a figure, too tall to be just another passerby, too still to be just someone lost in thought. Emma's heart raced. She wanted to run, to call out, but something in her gut told her not to make a scene. Whoever it was didn't look like they were there by accident. She forced herself to move, pretending to walk casually toward her car, but the hairs on the back of her neck stood up. Her breath came quicker, and the feeling of being watched intensified with every step she took. When she finally reached her car, she turned to look over her shoulder one more time. The figure was gone, swallowed by the night, but the unease didn't fade. It only deepened. Who was that person? Why had they been watching her? And why hadn't Sarah warned her about it? Was this the truth Sarah had been trying to protect her from? Before Emma could start her car, her phone buzzed again. Another message from Sarah. This one wasn't a call. It was a location, a place that Emma knew well, a quiet little cabin in the woods, where Sarah had always claimed to go for peace and quiet. It was strange though. Emma couldn't remember the last time Sarah had actually gone there. She'd always talked about it, but something had always come up. Was Sarah asking her to meet her there now? And why did Emma feel like she couldn't ignore it? Despite her better judgment, Emma knew she had to go. There was no turning back now. She had been pulled into something much bigger than herself, and every instinct told her that this was the only way to get the answers she needed. As she drove through the darkened streets, the weight of the night pressed down on her chest. Her mind replayed everything that had happened in the past few weeks. The odd behavior, the lies, the mysterious phone calls, and that figure in the shadows. Every step felt like a step deeper into a trap. But there was no way out now. She had to know. When Emma finally arrived at the cabin, she hesitated before stepping out of her car. The place looked just as she remembered it. Isolated, surrounded by thick trees, the faint smell of wood and earth in the air. But tonight, it felt different. It felt wrong. Emma's hands shook as she approached the door. She knocked, but there was no answer. She waited. Then she knocked again. Still nothing. Then a sound came from behind her. A rustling in the trees. Emma spun around, heart hammering in her chest. There, in the distance, she saw Sarah. Only this time, she wasn't alone. A man stood next to her, tall, broad-shouldered, and watching Emma with cold eyes. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Sarah stepped forward. "Emma, I didn't want you to find out like this," she said softly, her voice cracking. "But it's too late now. You need to know the truth." "What's going on, Sarah?" Emma asked, trying to keep her voice steady, despite the storm of emotions rising inside her. "Who's that? What are you involved in?" Sarah's gaze flickered to the man beside her, and for the first time, Emma saw fear in her eyes. Sarah began, but the man cut her off with a sharp look. "Don't," he said coldly. "She's already too far gone. She can't know." Emma felt her blood run cold. What was he talking about? "What are you talking about? I have a right to know the truth." The man stepped forward, his expression hardening. The truth is, you've been a pawn in something much bigger than you realize. This friendship with Sarah, it was never just about you two. You were always part of a bigger plan, Emma. A plan that's been in the works for years. Sarah, she's been protecting you from the truth. But now it's too late. Emma's mind spun. A plan? What plan? What are you saying? Sarah's face twisted in pain, but she nodded slowly. "Emma, I'm sorry. I didn't want you to be caught up in this, but you had to know. You were never just a best friend. To me, you were a key part of something that could change everything." It hit Emma then. The pieces finally fell into place. Sarah hadn't just been hiding secrets. She'd been trying to keep Emma out of a dangerous game. A web of intrigue she had no idea she'd walked into. But now it was too late to run. The truth had finally caught up with her, and there was no escaping it. The man took a step closer, his eyes fixed on Emma. "You've always been too trusting, but that's exactly what we need. Someone like you, innocent, unaware. You're the key to everything, and now that you know, there's no turning back." Fear gripped Emma's heart. What had she gotten herself into? What had Sarah really been trying to protect her from all this time? Before Emma could ask another question, Sarah spoke again, her voice breaking. "I never wanted you to be part of this. But it's too late now. They're watching us, Emma. They've always been watching us." The weight of Sarah's words sank in, and Emma realized just how deep the conspiracy went. The people Sarah had been hiding from weren't just ordinary criminals. They were part of something far more sinister, and Emma was now tangled in it, whether she wanted to be or not. The night air felt colder now, and Emma realized with a sinking heart that she had no choice. She couldn't just walk away from this. She was already part of the story, whether she liked it or not. With one final glance at Sarah, Emma nodded, a new resolve settling in her chest. So, what do we do now? Sarah looked at her eyes full of regret, but also a flicker of hope. Now, we fight, together. And with that, they turned toward the darkness, ready to face whatever came next. Because in this story, trust was no longer a given. It was a dangerous game, and the stakes were higher than Emma could have ever imagined. The real truth, as she was about to learn, was just beginning to unfold.